Good morning.
Good morning.
And good morning to those of you at home on Zoom and to those of you who may be watching this later in the week. I'm Reverend Dr. Deborah Hafner, your interim minister. And today we, as we have been doing since October 7th, will light a special candle to ask you to hold in your heart all of the lives that have been lost in Israel and Gaza and all those who are suffering now. This morning we're going to be looking at Hanukkah and what it might mean to us today. The opening words are by the Reverend Lynn Unger. She writes, "Come down from the hills, declare the fighting done. Be bold, declare victory. Even when the temple has been wrecked and the tyrants have not retreated, only coiled back like a snake prepared to strike again. Come down. Try to remember a life gentled by daily acts of domestic faith. The pot set to boil, the bed made up. The table set in calm expectation that when the sun sets, we will all still be here. Come down, unlearn the years of hiding, light fires that can be seen for miles that dance and spark and warm the frozen marrow. Put the lamp in your window. Declare your presence, your loyalties, the truths for which you do not expect to have to die. It would take a miracle, you say, to carve such a solid life out of this shelf of fear. But I say, you are the stuff for which such miracles are made." And will the choir join me up here? They're going to lead us in singing the hymn this morning, which is Light One Candle. It's hymn number 221 for those of you who like to have a hymnal. This is the only Hanukkah song that I like. So a few other people are nodding. When I would often have said over the years to music directors, "You will not play I Have a Little Dreidel" at one of my worship services. But I love this song, and I know when I hear it, I know that the season is here. Would you all please rise as you are able and join your voices with the choir in singing Light One Candle.
One candle for the baby and
Thank you, Dr. J and choir. And now I'd like to call up Ann and CJ to light our chalice, which is the symbol of our faith. And these words for this lighting come to us from Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks, a British Orthodox theologian and author who served as the chief rabbi of the United Hebrew Congregation of the Commonwealth. For though my faith is not yours, and your faith is not mine, if we are each free to light our own flame, together we can banish some of the darkness of the world. And here are some few brief announcements. The mitten tree is back for another holiday celebration. So please bring donated mittens, scarves, gloves, hats for both adults and children. If you have them today, great. If not, you can bring them next Sunday or to even the Christmas Eve service and place them on the mitten tree, which will be located in the social hall. All donations will go to the Huntington Family Service League. The middle school class invites everyone to join them for the third annual RE Bake Sale, which takes place next Sunday, December 17th, during the potluck luncheon. All proceeds will go to sponsoring several animal species, including polar bears and African elephants, through the auspices of the World Wildlife Fund. And this year there will also be a raffle for plushes of the animals that are adopted. A $5 purchase will buy one raffle ticket, and a $20 purchase will buy 6 tickets, and they really hope to see everyone there. And finally, to end on a truly celebratory note, the Klatsky family is overjoyed to share that Gwendolyn Iris Klatsky was born on November 30th. Mom is here, so obviously she's doing well. I guess Bryce is home with the baby. And it's important for everyone to know that Gwendolyn's name follows the very astute alphabetical pattern of the Klatsky family first names. There's Ann, Bryce, Captain the cat, CJ, of course, Dory the fish, Esme, and Freddie the dog. Also, it's important to know that Iris is the name of the Greek goddess of the rainbow. And the family wishes to extend their abundant gratitude to everyone from the UUFH who helped prepare them for and sustain them through this joyous transition. And we welcome the little one. And now please join me in saying our mission statement. The words are on the screen. In religious community, we nurture our individual spirits through caring for one another and helping to heal the world.
And I can't wait to name this baby. This is the time in our service where we invite you to come forward or to go to the back to light a candle for a joy or concern in your heart. Mary Bly from the Pastoral Care Committee will be joining you at the candles in the front. If you have already written your joy or concern, which we encourage you to do before this service, you may hand it to her, but there are some cards and pencils in her basket up here. You may come forward now. We're asked to send healing thoughts and prayers for Jean Marie Schmitz's cousin, Carol, who was recently diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. This is a note that we should all stay healthy. Special blessings to Carla, who turned 60 this weekend. Happy birthday, Carla. The 60s are great. Okay, this says, "Welcome to the world, Gwendolyn. Now, please fix it." This is to again remind us about the Israeli hostages and the hundreds of thousands of Gazans. A candle for our 13-year-old cousin suffering from severe depression. Please pray for her. Harry Berger sent in that we should remember that 78 people died of COVID this week in New York State and that people are still dying. And a prayer for Richard. Would you join me, please, in a few moments of quiet meditation, reflection, and prayer? Spirit of life and love, we know the days are getting shorter. Our days are getting darker. The world seems incredibly fractured and full of such grief. We too know that grief. Worry for a 13-year-old struggling with a mental illness. Worry for one just diagnosed with cancer. Grief for those in our own lives, and grief for people struggling around the world. Sometimes during these dark days, and in this holiday season, it is hard to find hope. And yet we come together once again to do just that. We ask to kindle hope in our heart. We experience hope with the birth of a healthy new baby, a new little sister, the celebration of a milestone birthday, the joy of being together yet again, listening to the beautiful music and the children's voices, and words that we hope will uplift. And we dig deeper because hope is a practice, and it is a practice that we will hold up. So may it be. Amen. And will the children come forward to help me tell a story? Oh, look at that. Y'all are just trying to trick me this morning. Hey, how are y'all? So I want you to think for a second. Let's think about or pretend you came in to the main hall this morning and all the chairs were broken. And the pulpit and the flowers were on the floor. And our chalice had been hacked up into little pieces. And up, instead of where the podium is, where the pulpit is, was a big statue of the god Zeus. And then there were pigs running all over the room. And then some man got up and brought a pig up here and killed it. I got a big no over here. Did you hear that? So how would you feel if you came in and that's what UUFH looked like this morning? Millie?
Shocked.
Shocked. Okay. How else might you feel? Wet?
Shocked.
Double shock. CJ?
Shocked.
Okay, some of you bigger people, how would you feel?
I just say it got vandalized.
You what?
I just say it got vandalized.
Okay, would you be scared? No?
Sometimes when I get scared, I know that my mom and dad are there.
Okay, good, good. And actually, we're going to talk a little bit about that with the grown-ups later. Hello. And yes, Nina.
In reality, I'd probably call 911.
Yeah, so we might be frightened. Would anybody be mad? Would any of you be mad? Yeah, you'd be really mad. Well, I want to show you a picture. So, see this? I actually went to the Met yesterday, which is so wonderful. Go see the Manet Degas exhibit if you haven't. And this, I had never seen this. This is a statue. Does anyone want to guess what that is? Okay, let's have Millie take a guess. No,
Maybe it's some sort of temple?
it is. It's the temple in Jerusalem that King Solomon built. And somebody put it together from all the stuff in the Bible. I had never seen this. So that's where the Jews over 2,000 years ago, 2,200 years ago, were worshiping. And what I just described to you, with everything broken, and with pigs running around and people slaughtering pigs and a statue of Zeus, all of that had been done into the inside of that temple. And it had been done by a man named King Ahasuerus, who was Greek, who said that the Jews could no longer worship in that temple. In fact, the Jewish religion was outlawed. So they were pretty upset about that. And an army was formed by an older man named Mattathias, and he had 5 sons named, does anyone know their name? Out here? Oh, well, not their first name. I don't know their first. Do you know their first name? We know one first name. Judah Maccabee, right. Who's Eleazar? Was that one of the brothers? Okay. I learn all the time. And they fought a war. It took them 3 years to win this war, this band of brothers. They ended up with about 6,000 people, and thousands and thousands of people died, but they were able to reclaim the temple, and they went in and cleaned it up. And in the middle of that temple, like in every Jewish temple today, is a light. And in the center, it's a holy light, and they decided after they cleaned up that they needed to light that light again. That light was supposed to burn for, anyone know? Yeah.
One night.
Right. Well, there was only enough oil for one night, but they needed it to burn for 8 nights. And so they sent somebody out to make oil. Did you all know that it takes 8 days to make oil from olives? So when you press olives, you need 8 days. But they only had enough oil for one day, and they lit it. And what the legend says is that light burned for 8 days. And so we celebrate Hanukkah by lighting a menorah. We eat things called latkes. Anyone had latkes this week? Yeah, I had really great latkes in New York last night. Those are potato pancakes, for those of you who don't know. And they're full of oil. God knows how many calories one latke has. And they're really delicious. And we give children what's called Hanukkah gelt. And so Miss Sandra's got some Hanukkah gelt for you. And we're also going to give you a picture of a menorah. Not yet. But first, we're going to light the menorah, and I want to ask any of you who have Jewish backgrounds who want to come up and be with us. I will call it the bima for right this minute, to light the candles with me and to say the prayer in Hebrew, and then we'll invite everyone else. So if you would like to come up, and if any of you who know the prayer in Hebrew would like to come with me. Lee, I'm going to need some technical assistance, I think. So we light one candle for each night of Hanukkah. And so we're up to, tonight will be night 4. The big candle in the middle has a special name. It's called the shamus. It's the helper candle. And we light it first. And I'm going to just, Florence, you could have stayed down on the bottom there, but thank you all who are coming up. Okay. And you know what, Florence, since you just worked so hard, I'm going to let you light this first candle. And if we are going to say in Hebrew together, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Hanukkah. Lee, would you like to light one? That's okay. Ellen, let me give you. I'm going to help each of you, apparently. Judy. And will you all join us in English? Next slide, Deb. Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, who has commanded us to light the Hanukkah lights. Thank you all for joining me up here.
Thank you so much for doing this. You can help me down the steps. Absolutely.
Actually,
Over here is a railing. Yes, I was looking for the railing.
and we're going to sing the children out, but Sandra's going to give you all some Hanukkah gelt to take home and a picture of a menorah to color. And I'm going to talk with your parents about what to do with that picture later in my sermon. So if we could sing them out.
Our weekly split plate collection, divides your contributions between the designated charity of the month and the work of the UUFH. You can now make your donations using Zelle or PayPal in addition to cash, and you can find the UUFH on these apps by entering office@uufh.org in the recipient search bar. And please indicate split plate on your specific donation instructions in the comment area. The split plate for December will target Hi, the Huntington Interfaith Homeless Initiative, which is part of the Family Service League. As you may know, Hi offers homeless individuals in Huntington a safe and warm place to spend winter nights from December through March. We are one of 35-plus local congregations that work with the Family Service League of Suffolk County. We help provide overnight shelter, clothing, a hot dinner, breakfast, and a bag lunch to all the participants. And this has been part of our work for many, many years, as you probably know. So please give as generously as you are able. This is a reading entitled, "The Place Where We Are Right," and it was written by Yehudi Amichai, an Israeli poet and multiple prize-winning author. And in my opinion, it speaks to what can happen, especially now in the Middle East, if all those claiming the same land as their own can put hatred and war aside. From the place where we are right, flowers will never grow in the spring. The place where we are right is hard and trampled like a yard. But doubts and love can dig up the world like a mole, a plow. And a whisper will be heard in the place where the ruined house once stood.
Thank you, choir. I chose that song for this morning because, like so many people of Jewish heritage, I have felt dread and fear since the Hamas massacre of more than 1,400 Israeli citizens, the women raped and tortured, the taking of the hostages. I've wanted to talk to you about this. I thought that those of you who are Jewish might need to know you are not alone in your feelings. And I wanted those of you from other backgrounds to understand more about how many Jews are feeling right now. Never again is not a slogan for Jewish people. It is a prayer that the millennial-old campaigns of hate and murder to eradicate Jews won't happen again. Now, Hanukkah is supposed to be a joyful time of family traditions. That it is a celebration of a military victory for religious freedom is not lost on me this year. That the Maccabean victory led to Jews being once again able to live securely in Israel and Jerusalem is not lost on us this year. And that thousands of diverse people died in that ancient war is not lost on us. Now, I want to be really clear, I am not here to preach today about the war. I support what Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis has called a both and love. I condemn Hamas. I abhor the corrupt anti-right government of Benjamin Netanyahu. Gaza needs humanitarian aid now. Israeli hostages need to be returned now. There must be a ceasefire now. Israelis and Palestinians both deserve to live in peace and both deserve to be in a homeland where they can flourish. As I have been saying to you since October 7th, as Universalists, we must understand that there is only one side: humanity. I am 97% Ashkenazi Jewish. For those of you who are not familiar with that term, my people were marginalized people in Eastern Europe. My great-great-grandparents were indentured slaves. My great-grandparents were forced or burnt out of their villages. My grandmother's 4 brothers and sisters were murdered by the Nazis. I grew up across the bay in nearby Fairfield County, where Jews were not allowed to live in certain towns, where we were not allowed to go to certain country clubs, where I was not invited to certain women's club dances. When I was in the 2nd grade, I was held down and tarred, literally tarred by stuff on paving tar, by older boys saying anti-Semitic things as they did it. My parents gave me the middle name Wynn because they thought it sounded Christian, so that if I ever had to drop Hafner because it was dangerous to be Jewish again, I would have a last name. During my interview for Princeton, the interviewer said to me, "You know, we don't take many of your kind." I asked him if he meant women. He pointedly said, "No." I learned by the 3rd grade that people hated Jews so much that they murdered us. I was having tea with my grandmother and her friend Susan when I saw the numbers on Susan's arm. I asked what they were. My grandma Anna shushed me. When I asked my parents on the way home, they said they would tell me later, and my mother got me the Diary of Anne Frank to read. I know that many of you who are Jewish have these stories too. I want to share with you one of my family's saddest stories. In 1938, my great-grandmother Pearl came to New York City to visit with her son, who she had sent illegally. She had gotten him forged papers to come to the U.S., to see him and his wife, who happened to be her niece, and their children, my father and his sister. 4 of them were living in a tenement on the east side. Have any of you been to the Tenement Museum? Yeah, so really worthwhile. So they were living in one of those tenements. The apartment only had 3 rooms. My father's family was one of 4. They lived with another family of 4, and workers came in to help with the tailoring during the day. Grandma Pearl was living a middle-class, pretty settled life in Europe at that point. My grandparents, Anna and Irving, begged her to stay. They knew by 1938 what was coming, even though they could not imagine the horrors of the camps. Great-grandma Pearl said no, her life was much better. She wasn't moving into a squalid apartment in New York. Pearl died in 1940 in a transport to a camp. So what I want to tell you is that American Ashkenazi Jews carry epigenetic terror in our DNA. Joe Kent Katz defined this terror as, quote, the fear of the unpredictable rise and fall of attempted annihilation and expulsion derived from repeated periods of mass anti-Jewish violence in Christian Europe, transmitted as intergenerational trauma, triggered by overt and covert anti-Jewish rhetoric and present-day violence. An easier way to understand it is by Rabbi Tirzah Firestone, who said, quote, for many Jews, catastrophe remains an unconscious organizing principle. She says, quote, Jews have had a proverbial bag packed for hundreds of years, ready for the next expulsion, anticipating the next crisis. What I want you to know is the people who joined me up here, many of us are experiencing that intergenerational trauma and fear right now. You may have heard Charles Schumer's speech a few weeks ago on the floor of the Senate. He said, can you blame us for feeling vulnerable only 80 years after Hitler wiped out half of all Jewish population across the world, while many countries turned their back? Can you appreciate the deep fear we have about what Hamas might do if left to their own devices? Because the long arc of Jewish history teaches us a lesson that it is hard to forget, that ultimately we will be alone. Now, anti-Semitism has always existed in the U.S., but in recent months it has grown exponentially. So have instances of Islamophobia. Hatred of Muslims and Jews have been intertwined ever since the Crusades and the Inquisition, where we were both thrown out of Europe. According to Jews for Racial and Economic Justice, quote, anti-Semitism and false theory of Jewish power are in the DNA of the alt-right white nationalist movement. They go on to explain anti-Semitism this way. Originating in European Christianity, anti-Semitism is a form of ideological oppression that targets Jews. In Europe and the United States, it has functioned to protect the prevailing economic system and the almost exclusively Christian ruling class by diverting blame of hardship to Jews. Like all oppressions, it has deep historical roots, and it uses exploitation, marginalization, discrimination, and violence as its tools. Like all oppression, the ideology contains elements of dehumanization and degradation via lies and stereotypes, as well as mythologies. The myth changes and adapts to different times and places, but fundamentally it says that Jews are to blame for society's problems. The most accessible targets are often Jews rather than the elite political and economic actors who actually have power over the system and who are almost exclusively Christian. So there have been cycles of anti-Semitism throughout both Jewish and Western history. First, it rises and becomes institutionalized. Then there is violence against the Jewish people, then expulsions and killings. And finally, Jews resettle and believe they think they are safe again until the cycle starts again. Remember my grandmother, Pearl. So many of us, many Jews are frightened that we are entering this cycle of anti-Semitism again. Since my childhood, Since those early messages, I have feared being at this time. Israel was founded in 1948 to solve Europe's Jewish problem. The continued cycle of hatred is why so many American Jews support the state of Israel, a Jewish homeland that is self-governed and where all Jews are welcome to immigrate. Please know that supporting the right of Israel to exist is different than supporting the current right-wing government. But there is no way for me to understand calls from non-Jews, primarily from colleagues of mine on the left, to eliminate a Jewish homeland as anything but anti-Semitism. The Anti-Defamation League reports that anti-Semitic incidents, harassment, vandalism, and assault have increased by 388% since October 7th. You probably read that just this week there was a shooting in front of a synagogue in Albany, New York, and an incident at the Syosset School Board that required calling in the police this week. Anti-Semitic rhetoric is used regularly at pro-Palestinian and ceasefire marches, as it was by the neo-Nazis in Charlottesville in 2017. You may have seen the meme "From the River to the Sea." From the river to the sea is a call for a Palestinian state, from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. In other words, it is a call to obliterate Israel. I'm sorry to tell you that several UU ministers, including one staff person from the UUA, have posted that meme on their Facebook pages in the last month. I have been experiencing anti-Semitism from the Unitarian Universalist Association colleagues and movement colleagues these past few months. On Facebook, in petitions, on actions, even in a webinar sponsored by Side with Love. UU-affiliated organizations like Black Lives of UU and DRUM, which is Diverse Religious Professional UU Ministers, organizations that I have supported with both time and money, have failed to condemn Hamas, one even implying that the attack on Israel was an expected result of, quote, settler colonialism. These organizations have used anti-Semitic tropes. Non-Jews have asserted that one can be anti-Israel without being anti-Semitic. But what's been worse for me, is when Jewish UUs have responded that we are being hurt. Jewish anguish and fear has been denied, minimized, and even scoffed at by people we have worked with for justice for decades. These are the same people who taught us that the proper response to a marginalized people saying that they are being hurt is to apologize, to listen, to make amends, to promise to do better. We wonder now why those principles don't apply to us. And we conclude that it's anti-Semitism. So, where can I find hope? Where can we find hope? I think hope is in the movement of people who are coming together despite the horrors of this war. Hope is groups like Standing Together. I don't know if you read about them in the Times, a coalition of Jews and Palestinians who are together organizing to say, "Not in our name." It's about people loving each other across boundaries. It's those of you who aren't Jewish speaking out and reaching out to those of us who are, to learn more about anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, to speak out when you hear something that denigrates another. It might include, for those of you who aren't Jewish, actually lighting a menorah and putting it in your window to show solidarity with your Jewish neighbors, as Project Menorah suggests. The drawings we gave your children today to color might be placed in your window or on your front door. And if there are people here of Jewish or Palestinian origin who would like to meet up to talk further, please let me know and we will set something up. See, the interesting thing is the Hanukkah story, especially as it is retold in the Talmud, is fundamentally about hope and starting again. So think for a minute about those people who lit that pot of oil knowing it would only last for one day, but hoping that something else would happen. Rabbi Sachs, who Lee quoted, also wrote, "There were times when any other people would have given up after the destruction of the temple or the massacres or the Crusades or the Spanish Inquisition or the pogroms or the Holocaust. But somehow Jews don't sit and weep. They gather what remains, rebuild our people, and lit a candle like no other in history, a light that tells us and the world that there is a power of the human spirit to overcome every tragedy and refuse to accept defeat." I think these candles speak to that hope. Isaac Basheyev Singer wrote about the lit menorah in the Warsaw Ghetto in the 40s. He said, "That glimmer of hope, surrounded by so many shadows, seems to say, without any words, evil has not yet got complete domination. There is a spark of hope still left." So, my friends, my message to you this morning is, let us be part of that hope. Let us find hope within ourselves. Let us work to assure a world that recognizes that no one is free until everyone is free. Let us mourn every single lost life, regardless of its origin. And let us speak out against Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. Let us continue to side with all of humanity. I leave this sermon with the final words of my friends, Rabbi Dennis and Rabbi Sandy Sasso. May the celebration of lights this year usher a new morning and a new year of peace and a future of possibilities and hope. Thank you for listening. And if you will rise and body your spirit, and we're going to just sing one verse from When I Am Frightened together.
You
On this Festival of Lights, I end with Mary Oliver's words, "Loss is our great lesson, but I also say this, that light is an invitation to happiness, and that happiness, when it's done right, is a kind of holiness palpable and redemptive. My friends, go in peace. May our real service begin."
Thank you, Dr. J, and thank you to the choir for your musical accompaniment today. And thanks to all of you who are here and those who are streaming at home or will be watching later on YouTube. All present are, of course, invited to greet Reverend Hafner at the back of the main hall and then to move into the social hall for coffee and conversation. Till we meet again, I wish you all a wonderful start to the new week ahead. Thank you.